The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Okay, good morning, everyone. This is Sam from the National Weather Service in Wakefield here. We'll get going on our weekly Thursday briefing here. We do have a couple things to talk about, especially confined to the later tonight into tomorrow. Really, the main story is going to be we're going to have a cold front approaching the area later tonight and then pushing through the area tomorrow afternoon. And then that's going to bring some increasing chances for rain, especially tonight into early tomorrow, and then also some gusty winds both ahead of the front tonight and then also in the post-frontal setup tomorrow afternoon. We could have some gusts up to 35 miles per hour tonight and then up to 40 miles per hour tomorrow afternoon. Again, tomorrow afternoon really looks like the gustier period, but really beyond that, there's really not too much to highlight other than we will be dry and, turning just more seasonable for December. So on the marine side of things, I will discuss this kind of later in the presentation, but we are expecting a period of gales, especially for the northern portions of our waters, with small craft advisories elsewhere. Just taking a look at the weather pattern here. So for today, we do have that storm system approaching from the west. We will stay mainly dry today. I will kind of bring this over here, just give an idea of what we're seeing right now. Take a look at the satellite. We can see that strong cold front moving, west to east through the central portions of the country, and then we're having some increasing clouds over the Carolinas, Mid-Atlantic, pushing into our area this morning, and then especially later today, it's going to become overcast ahead of that system. So I will kind of push that aside, and then we do see that cold front that moves through tomorrow, with the turning dry behind the front, but remaining breezy through most of the day. And we get this big area high pressure Saturday. So we should be dry on Saturday, and then just a series of mainly dry cold fronts move through Sunday, and then again remaining dry again to start the beginning of next week. So despite the system moving pretty quickly, it has a good deal of moisture to work with, so we are talking about rainfall amounts when all is said and done between a ½ inch to 1 inch for most of the area. If we get some heavier cells mixed in there, we could be talking about a couple areas seeing over an inch. As of now, best chances of that would be down here, Southeast Virginia, especially Northeast North Carolina, where there's at least some low chance for some embedded rumbles of thunder. But in terms of just timing wise, again, mainly dry today, and then as we get into the evening, that's when the rain chances really pick up across the west, and then really by the early portions of tomorrow morning, after midnight is when really we expect the biggest slug of rain, and that would be in the 12 a.m. to 6 a.m. and then we do gradually dry out later tomorrow morning, but we also need to watch for a little final line of showers to push through with the front itself later in the morning. Just giving an idea here, I will, once I go over this, bring in another view to potentially refine the timing. But as we're get into this evening, we get an increased coverage of showers, mainly for western portions of the area. I-95 points west, and then closer to midnight is when most of the area sees pretty widespread rainfall. Again, you can see some pockets of heavier rainfall mixed in there as well. And then, as we're getting, later in the night, closer to sunrise, that's when really we could see some heavier rain with some chances for, or rather low end chances for thunderstorms across the southeast where we could get some instability. So we're not really expecting severe weather with this activity, but some gusty winds, like I said, could be locally enhanced by the more intense rainfall activity. So I will kind of bring this view over here real quick, just to give a better idea of the timing. So this is 8 o'clock this evening. Again, just some lighter rain at this point, and then as we get towards midnight to 1 a.m., we get this a slug of heavier rain that moves into the area from the south, and that really pushes into southeast Virginia, northeast North Carolina as we get into the early portions of the morning. So those areas have the best chance of seeing the, as I mentioned, a rumble of thunder, as well as those locally higher rainfall totals. And then kind of once that pushes through, we might get a little bit of a drying period, around sunrise. And then here's the actual main front. So this is 7 a.m. The timing can change by a few hours here, but just giving a rough idea. So that front with, perhaps a line of showers and gusty winds approaching, the Richmond Retro by 7, and then, pushing through Eastern Virginia by, this is 11 a.m. and then 12 p.m. And then, by the afternoon, most of the rainfall activity should be offshore, and then we just get pretty gusty winds in the wake of all that. So just again, looking at the rainfall amounts, this is just for the tonight system through Sunday. Again, really ½ inch to up to an inch locally higher, and then mainly dry from the later portions of the weekend into the middle of next week. In terms of our peak wind gusts, so, outside of the rain, it will be quite gusty as well. So they do kind of ramp up out of the south, south-southeast to south tonight. Could be seeing, a few gusts to 25, 30, maybe up to 35 along the coast tonight with those southerly winds ahead of the front. And then once that front does move through, we're talking about peak wind gusts approaching 40 miles per hour tomorrow morning into tomorrow afternoon as well. So really just, not really windy, but could still be seeing some loose outdoor items, those holiday decorations kind of get blown around, maybe some lights blown off the tree, stuff like that. So, but then once that front moves well east of the area tomorrow, and then the wind should really die off Friday evening into Saturday. So, temperatures today will be quite mild in the mid to upper 50s, locally some 60s across the southeast. Same thing tomorrow, but just note that the high temperatures here will likely occur early in the day, with the front moving through, likely dropping temperatures a couple degrees, not too much, but just a couple degrees in the afternoon. And then cooler on Saturday behind the front, but this is kind of like temperatures we expect for this time of year, upper 40s to lower 50s. And then ahead of that, drier cold front that I mentioned earlier on Sunday, temperatures again well into the 50s to maybe around 60. So kind of just another similar pattern here. We dry off and then cool off behind the front. And then really just maybe seasonal temperatures, and then likely warming up into the middle to end of the holiday week next week. So, and overnight lows will, generally be what we expect this time of year in the upper 20s to 30s, and maybe some 40s closer to the coast. So, and as I mentioned before, almost all the rainfall is confined to today and tomorrow, with just really low in chances for rain in the extended period, looking well ahead to next week. This is our temperature outlook. Really talking about this is from Christmas Day through the New Year. We do still have above normal temperatures favored with after the wet system tomorrow. Beyond that, we're looking at below normal precipitation. Shifting gears here to the marine side. I'll try my best to explain what's going on here because we do have the two different wind regimes, the southerly winds tonight and then the westerly winds behind the front tomorrow. But the gale warnings in the we do have gale warnings in effect north of Cape Charles here on the ocean and also north of Windmill Point in the Chesapeake Bay. We do expect the southerly winds to increase tonight to 20 to 30 knots with gusts 35 to 40 knots, and that's for areas within the gale warning tonight. Elsewhere, we have small craft advisories, really for gusts up to 30 knots. So for tomorrow, morning and afternoon with those westerly winds, we are keeping an eye on that those might be a little higher than what the current forecast shows. So there is a chance that the gale warnings may need to be extended for the rest of the bay and also the rest of the waters down here. Not for the southerly winds tonight, but for the westerly winds that become quite gusty tomorrow. So just a heads up that change could be coming soon. And then also the seas will be increasing, with the stronger winds to 6 to 9 feet. Again, very high probabilities of small craft conditions. The gale probabilities here are likely underestimating in the Chesapeake Bay for tomorrow. But again, it's showing the higher probabilities confined to the ocean waters offshore. And then, as I was talking about before, there is some probability for gales, especially tomorrow later tomorrow morning, tomorrow afternoon behind the front in this kind of secondary peak in the probabilities here, after the front moves through. So really most of the marine issues are confined to tonight and then tomorrow. We could be seeing locally small craft conditions, return by Sunday into Monday behind that next cold front, but nothing really out of the ordinary for this time of year. And then peak wind gusts on the marine. Again, there's a chance these might need to be increased a bit, or likely will be increased a bit with the next forecast update, but pretty good chance most areas see gusts to 30 knots with, locally up to 35 to 40 knots. From the southerly winds tonight, shifting to the west tomorrow. And then kind of, like I said, remaining in a windy period with the local small craft conditions possible. Probably not Saturday, but, later Sunday into Monday, and then into next week, primarily sub-small craft conditions. But the seas build to 6 to 10 feet. They will be highest offshore, just with the wind direction, pointing in the offshore direction. And then with occasional wave heights to 12 to 13 feet. So that's all I have. I will stop the recording and open up for any questions if there are any.